Mario Queiroz, GM and VP of Pixel Phones. You've been in charge of this Pixel effort. This is the second iteration, first one last year. What makes this new one special? Why is it going to succeed in this whole plethora of new smartphones coming out this fall?
Well, what makes it special is we definitely have built amazing hardware, but we've coupled this amazing hardware with software and AI from Google, and we've really brought those things together to give you things like the Google Assistant, which really understands you well and keeps getting better all the time, and the most amazing photography experience through a lot of machine learning.
What do you think the highlight feature is of the new model over last year's? Why is it going to stand out in the crowd?
The most important thing about the Pixel is that it really packages the best of Google services and services from third-party developers into the phone in the best possible way in a smartphone.
So tell me about the camera. The most interesting thing to me was that you don't need two cameras on the back to do the portrait mode, the blur mode. Can you get a little, can you geek out here and tell us how you do it?
Sure. So what we've done is this year we selected a lens which has 2 pixels for every pixel of a photo that's taken. And what we do is, and those 2 pixels are really microns, tenths of microns apart. And what we do there is through our machine learning, we look at all of the pixels and we're able to tell the distance, just like when you have binoculars on, let's say. And with that, we've trained our model, our machine learning model, on almost 1 million photos to be able then to understand what's in the background, what's in the foreground. We've created a true depth map of images using a single camera.
Got it. Can you talk a little bit about the pricing strategy for these phones? They're around the same prices as maybe an iPhone 8 or some of the new Samsung devices. The $850 price point is pretty high. We see phones going up to that threshold with the higher storage capacity nearing $1,000. So can you talk about why Google is choosing to play in that game with the high prices versus maybe taking an Amazon model where maybe losing a little bit money on the hardware or making very little and making most of the money on services?
Yeah. Our goal with the pricing is to make sure that we're reflecting the value that the consumer is getting from the product. And the interesting thing about, what's different about what we're doing is that we offer a range of price for the same functionality, essentially. It's pretty unique that we can offer all of the same features for the small phone and the large phone, and you're really only choosing size and price. So if you want the amazing camera with the DxO score of 98, you can still buy the smaller phone and have access to that. So our approach really is to offer all the functionality in each of the phones, and you're just choosing the size.
Got it. Can you give me your view on biometrics? Which ones make most sense for phones? You see the iPhone X uses facial recognition. You're going with the fingerprint scanner. What's the decision making behind that? Where do you see biometrics going?
So the decision that we made is that we wanted to make the phone, unlocking of the phone, as ergonomically simple and comfortable as possible for the consumer, for the user. And fingerprint sensing is really the best way to do that. And our fingerprint sensor is the fastest fingerprint sensor of any smartphone. We've worked really, really hard to be able to achieve that. And it's also very, very secure.
Got it. And I noticed there's this feature you talked about on stage about transferring information from an iPhone. I remember the last model, last year's, the original Pixel, had a little dongle in the box to make USB Lightning transfers from the iPhone to this easier. Did that change? Are you upgrading that, doing more this year in terms of the transfers?
Yeah, you still get the dongle to be able to connect to whatever your smartphone's cable looks like to the Pixel 2. But the dongle is just the least of it. We've done a lot of work in the software to make the transfer process very, very easy. So again, you can get all of your data, all of your messages, all of your photos, and whatever else you might have in less than 10 minutes transfer from phone to phone. It's very, very simple.
Now, is that something that the original Pixel had, being able to transfer iMessages and apps?
The original Pixel had these features, but now we've made it faster and simpler in the Pixel 2.
Okay, so how are you doing that? Now, what kind of work was necessary in order to be able to transfer all that data from an iPhone to an Android phone? And is there a specific, team within Google who's working on ways to get people to switch from the iPhone to the Google phones?
We have a team at Google that's looking at the experiences of a broad range of smartphones and how that user can get their information into Pixel. There's a lot of work that we've done on Pixel itself during setup that automates this, again, for whatever phone you're coming from. And we see users coming from a range of phones to the Pixel.
Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of the market of people switching from other phones to Pixel phones? Are you seeing a majority of people coming from iOS phones, or are you seeing a lot of people moving from Android and Samsung? And which OEMs in particular do you think are having people switch over to Pixels?
We see people coming from both iOS as well as from Android at roughly the proportion of the market.
Got it. And in terms of the other products, what do you think the hit is? Have you been using the Google Home Max at home? How does it sound? Tell me about it.
Yeah, Google Home Max and Google Home Mini and the other products are great. The thing that I like is the consistency and the connection between the products. And so I'm listening to a podcast at home on my Google Home Mini, and then I can pick up the podcast in the car on my Pixel and just continue where I left off. And the Google Assistant is what makes that connection. I can, if I'm not within shouting distance of my Google Home at home, I can ask my Pixel to turn up the temperature in the living room, and it turns up the temperature on my Nest. So I've been using all of these products. We had another example that we discussed today of the Pixel Book, and if it doesn't have an internet connection and your Pixel phone is next to it, the Pixel Book automatically says, hey, do you want to tether off of your Pixel phone? And then it's really easy to get online that way.